Ben Shapiro doesn't understand movies. That's how I'm starting this one out. Yeah, for a dude who once dreamed of writing movies in Hollywood, Ben seems to have absolutely no media literacy skills and somehow a worse attention span than my stoned ADHD ass. I'm of course talking about Benny's Blitz videos about the Barbie blockbuster everybody's already talking about. But I'm also here to rob the toxic gossip train, so give me all your likes and subscribe and nobody gets hurt. In case you somehow missed the stream of much more intelligent and well-spoken creators waxing poetic about the Debate Gremlins videos, Ben released a 42-minute review of Barbie, a 35-minute discussion with Brett Cooper, and an hour and a half long podcast with the Daily Wire buffoons, as well as an 8-minute video I refuse to watch. In the review, Ben blows up a Barbie and Ken doll in a toy car he presumably spent money on in the
most Oppenheimer fashion.
Somehow. I think I missed the chapter in American Prometheus where Oppenheimer is blowing up children's toys, but I'll have another crack at it, I guess. Ben, as a traditional conservative, has obvious arguments against the anti-patriarchal message of the movie, but honestly, I think Ben goes a little off the rails on this one. Obviously, spoilers for Barbie ahead. Yes, it is absolutely corpo trash marketing. But it's fucking funny, you idiots. What fun is it being an anarchist if you can't even laugh when the corpos know they're at the ass end of the joke? It's funny, damn it. Yes, I'm a leftist who saw Barbie. Yes, I'm a leftist who saw Oppenheimer. Twice, once in IMAX, which was super worth it. And I absolutely believe that we can engage with these movies through positive frameworks while recognizing the inherent harm that both of these films and subject matters have caused and will continue to cause. Wow, that was not meant to be as poignant as it was for Barbie, but hey, if the shoe fits. Fuck. Oh my god, I have never actually watched a Ben Shapiro video. I feel drained of life. He doesn't even actually talk fast. He just moves through topics really quickly. Dude just lives the Gish Gallop life. His first and repeating complaint is, who is this made for? And I will admit, this is a valid question because almost everyone I've seen who's made a video on the Barbie movie seems convinced it was made and marketed strictly for children. And I really have to disagree with that. Maybe my millennial is showing. I am wearing my red skinny jeans today. But I saw the layers of irony and adult dread coming a mile away from the first images of the set. Who was this movie for? It was for people like me, people like Greta, millennial-ass hipsters, and yes, Ben, Birkenstock-wearing Portland lesbians. My fucking community. The first teaser trailer was that 2001 A Space Odyssey reference, and I knew I was going to love this movie just based off of that, because you can see the passion and joy they put into it. Who was that reference for, Ben? It was for me, the cinephile who watches 2001 at least once a year. It was for the general audience member who gets the joke enough to understand that this isn't going to be your average Barbie movie, whatever the fuck that means. And sure, I guess it was for the kids who were just laughing at the joke because honestly, it's a great bit that I forgot about, especially after 3 hours of Oppenheimer. And really, the tonal whiplash made that shit 100% funnier. I'll be honest, I had never heard of Greta Gerwig before this movie. I haven't seen Lady Bird, but it really seems like Greta knew her audience and absolutely nailed it. Now, I don't know her opinions on Marx and all that, but she wrote and produced an anti-corporate movie, to an extent, with the corporation's seal of approval, where Will Ferrell plays a SNL shell of a character who somehow, in the world of the movie, rose to the rank of CEO, which I guess realistically is not too far off. The reference to Citizens United made me smile. Who was that reference for, Ben? Again, it was for me. And you got it too, so apparently it was for you too. It's for us. Now, this isn't the only complaint of injected politics that Ben is just spewing. I mean, the whole movie is about patriarchy. And we all know that is one of Ben's triggers, so everyone, please, be sensitive. When Barbie and Stowaway Ken reach the real world, they are immediately greeted by men leering at Barbie, and the first words out of their mouth are, "Hey, Blondie, give me a smile," which has everyone from British news dude to Aussie sword guy whining about, no one's talked like that since the 70s. Yeah, dude. It's gotten worse. I thought there were kids in the theater. The Barbie movie is not going to fucking say, "Hey, babe, nice tits." And if you've been to Venice Beach, you'll know I'm even saying the nice version of modern catcalling. After getting released from jail for defending herself from sexual assault, fuck the police, Barbie gets called a fascist by the little girl she thinks she has a cosmic connection with. Just... Can you imagine? You think you find the reason for the schism in your life, and they're just like, "Nah, fuck you, Chud." Ben does not understand why this little zoomer-ass girl is just roasting Barbie with absolute facts and logic, and thinks this is the movie saying that we should hate Barbie. Ben, you can criticize something without hating it. A complaint or criticism is just simply something that we can fix. This leads to one of the best fucking lines of the movie, which has Ben in absolute disbelief that Barbie isn't the bimbo that he projected onto her. This entire video is really just littered with little microaggressions and little jabs at women just for being a woman or being trans. Why so spicy, little man? You need some more milk? Barbie then goes to Mattel, where it is all run by men who want to ship her back to Barbie Land like the commodity they see her as. They have the creator of Barbie's soul in some weird fucking limbo area. And they have a profit analyst that can run an algorithm that will immediately tell them which decision will make them gazoodles of money. They are my worst fucking nightmare. Meanwhile, Ken has been making his way downtown, walking fast, learning about patriarchy, and thinks has something to do with horses, and like he's not all the way wrong. But Ben doesn't focus on his love for equestrian at all, and instead focuses only on how quickly and easily Ken was able to make it back to Barbie Land and establish the patriarchy and dominate all the Barbies. The patriarchy. Yes, indeed. Goddamn patriarchy. This is the biggest departure from the previous status quo, as before, Kens, while severely neglected in almost every sense, weren't Barbie's servants. There wasn't an inherent hierarchy of Barbie over Ken as much as there was an infatuation of a person who could communicate her intentions to Ken a little bit better. Now, I have to unfortunately agree with Ben. I don't know how Ken, our Ken, lovable, not stupid, but kind of dumb, Ken, was able to convince a world of hyper-intelligent and successful women to just hand over power with just the concept of patriarchy, and that put a spell over all the Barbies? I don't know, but just like the late-stage capitalist hellscape that we were all born into, Barbie returns with America Ferrera to Barbie Land to find it in absolute disarray, and she just has to deal with it. Ken has taken over the Barbie dream house and turned it into the Mojo Dojo Casa house of every dude's dream, where the president is serving drinks for some reason. The Kens haven't recreated patriarchy as much as they've made the Barbie Land nightmare version of the most chauvinistic 1950s textbook definition of patriarchy, where the Barbies are subservient to a comical level. Here, Ben makes another decent point in saying that the movie is essentially saying that weird, ugly women and woke women won't fall under patriarchy spell because A, no, B, it seems like some weird reflection of pretty privilege, saying like people who fall into the societal beauty standards just don't understand the intersectional issues and struggles of people who don't fall into those standards. But that doesn't mean all pretty people are dumb and all ugly people are woke. That's a really weird way to say it and frame it. The movie climaxes with the Barbies defeating the Kens by distracting and setting themselves against each other in a way that made former rockstar Ken-amy absolutely wither and die. I will never play Skinny Love in the park again, I fucking promise. After liberating the Barbies who've bought into patriarchy through communal education, the Barbies rise up in revolutionary solidarity to take a vote to save Barbie Land from January 6. And this is where the corpo stink really starts coming up, and as Jack Saint says in his video, really starts contradicting the great, very based, very cool message given by Weird Barbie earlier in the movie, where she essentially says systemic problems cannot be solved by individual action alone. A vote in reality doesn't change much about material conditions, and all too often doesn't even change who's in positions of power. This movie is, at the end of the day, just a giant corporate advertisement meant to sell more toys to children and to nostalgia-hungry 30-year-olds who now have a spare $40 to spend on more plastic trash to remind them of better times. You can even buy the Weird Barbie now. Even though stereotypical Barbie was able to escape her samsaric cycle in Barbie Land to begin her adventures out in the real world with no money, social security number, or anything, really, Will Ferrell is still the CEO of Mattel. It's still the same guys who were ready and willing to cut her out of her own franchise once they realized that Ken was not only still profitable, but more profitable. This movie didn't change anything. It's still the same men with the same singular profit incentive running everything. Ben said he didn't understand why the suits chased Barbie, Gloria, and Sasha back into Barbie Land. That's where they wanted Barbie going, right? It's because they had humans in their money-making machine for the first time pretty much ever, and they didn't know what was gonna happen. They had to protect their vested interests. And once they realized that everything was fine and they actually might make more money now, they were more than happy to fuck off. They aren't evil because they're men. They're evil because they're capitalists. They feel like empty shells because that's what they are. Gaping jaws, ever hungry, looking for that next biggest, juiciest, most profitable meal to wrap their teeth around. But Ben still thinks this film is saying all men, all the Kens, all the lawyers are evil because they're men. And this brings us to the most important point. We all knew Ben was going to have an issue with the open criticism of patriarchy in this movie, but it goes further into his understanding of the thesis. He thinks this movie is saying that Ken, and by extension all men, are secondary characters who deserve less and should be separated from Barbie, i.e. women, for world peace. I think we saw different movies, dude. Ken is a secondary character in the first act. That's all he is. And that is the point, Ben. Ken was made as an accessory for Barbie. Ken can't be a president or a doctor or even horse riding Ken, because he is Ken and Barbie, not Ken and Barbie. There is no separation. There is no meaning to Ken beyond his association to Barbie. And in Barbie land, that is not a life. This isn't the Barbitriarchy or anything like that, because there isn't a subjugation of Kens as much as there just isn't anything for Kens. Barbie has her dream house, and when Ken tries to make his move for a little, something, even Ken doesn't really know, Barbie rejects his advances because it's girls' night. And because it's Barbie's dream house, not Ken's. And Ken goes back to... where exactly? Ken doesn't have a dream house. Ken doesn't have a purpose. Ken doesn't have a life outside of Barbie and Beach. And as much as I love Barbie and Beach, there needs to be more. Ken is looking for anything to fulfill him. And as soon as he reaches the real world, he finds that fulfillment and respect just by nature of him existing as a man. Now that may sound overly simplistic, but it is a lot more accurate and realistic than one might think. Hi, I'm a straight cis dude. Look, I got sword, I got gun. Masculinity. Fuck. I've moved through this world as a guy for the last 30 years, and I can 100% attest to the fact that I have an inherent level of respect just given to me for little to no reason. I have mostly manager experience on my resume before 30, all because I have constantly and continually failed upwards to the point I have kinda learned what I'm doing. I will be the first to admit that there is no reason for me to receive as many promotions as I have in my life, other than being at the right place at the right time and having the unearned confidence of being a 20-something white man. Coming out of high school, I wanted to be a musician. I was in a band writing songs about breakups because that's all I knew. But just like Beach Ken, all I had to define myself was music. I had no other passions or things that gave my life meaning and purpose. I had dropped out after taking the 101s of every course that interested me at my community college. I was pretty much just cruising on weed, what little looks I had, and dude bro YouTube and documentary education. When the band I was in eventually broke up, I lost the one point of identity that I had, and it took me years to find myself again. I really feel like Ken goes through a very similar arc of identity loss and growth. Ken defines himself through Barbie, while Barbie sees Ken as a friend and has never wanted anything from him, which is perfectly valid. But Ken, who was made as Barbie and Ken, sees himself as nothing without Barbie and her validation. So when someone, especially a woman, as Film Cooper points out, asks him for something as simple as the time in the real world, he feels an immense amount of external validation in his autonomy and competency as a person. From there, Ken learns about the patriarchy by reading entire textbooks in a single day, talking to top corpo suits about how the patriarchy is handled in the modern day, and then goes on to establish the most chauvinistic form of patriarchy in Barbie Land, taking over all Barbie's jobs. Actually, I don't remember them getting any actual work done at all. All of Barbie's dream houses, and somehow taking all of the world's most intelligent and capable women and brainwashing them. After the Barbies spark a civil beach-off, between the Kens, and it breaks into, honestly, the only musical number I have ever fully enjoyed. That Ben thought was too long and drawn out with his pitchy ass. Ken comes to learn and understand that he doesn't need Barbie, that he is Ken, and he is Knuff. And this Ben, this is where I go from feeling annoyed and slightly pissed off at you, like I usually am, and I feel a semblance of sympathy. You saw this movie, and you thought Ken was a secondary character despite having the most amount of growth. You saw Ken learn to love himself, and took that to mean that men and women must learn to live by themselves to be happy. And worst of all, you saw this movie. You paid good money to go and watch it. You even cosplayed as Ken. And you still walked away feeling like you weren't Knuff. Every complaint, every joke that doesn't land, every microaggression is just Ben lashing out at something. It feels like he wanted to be movie Ben, but never got the chance and is now bitter and angry over it. He, like me, put all his eggs in the artsy basket, and when it didn't pan out, turned to politics for self-fulfillment. Now, of course, my politics are much better, and I am so much closer to being the cool kid's philosopher. I mean, I'm the one who smokes weed after all. Maybe it's all projection. I don't know, Ben, but I don't know. The dude wrote 4 videos totaling about 3 hours of content on the fucking doll movie. Ben, who hurt you? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? A blunt? Come on, dude, come smoke this fatty with me. Come be the cool kid's philosopher again for like 5 minutes. I'm kidding, stay the fuck away from me. I hold zero solidarity for you. Look, Ben, you failed at your first passion. I get it. I did too. That's life. And I know that your masculinity may feel threatened because Matt Walsh keeps gorilla gluing his pubes to his face. But the Barbie movie is not the one that hurt you. And I think you know that. Your conversation with Brett Cooper just kind of highlights how much of this is just you being a hater. Like, you just come off as being defensive and honestly kind of mean.
So here's my big problem. Because everything is refracted through the prism of a secular feminist outlook, everything in the movie is refracted through that prism. The obvious solutions that are available are completely put aside. Right? I mean, the obvious solutions that are available, which would be like, Barbie treating Ken like a normal human and Ken treating Barbie like a normal human, that's completely put aside because he has to treat her like woman and she has to treat him like man, but only
they're dolls,
in the feminist
Ben.
outlook.
That's how Mattel created them. They're not actually humans.
But if the idea is that, but understood. But
pretty mansplaining there, buddy. Why would someone feel the need to make almost double the amount of content on a movie if they didn't love it? Ben's Oppenheimer review isn't even 15 minutes long, and let me tell you, there's so much shit to unpack from that movie, and we are going to breeze on past how Ben says he loved this super pro-leftist anti-war movie that I would clock as woke as fuck on his radar. I feel like Ben went into the Barbie movie wanting to hate it, which is why he's so confused on a rather simple plot and didn't connect with Ken learning to love himself separate from Barbie. Maybe Barbie and Ken will end up together. I don't know, but that'll be when Ken learns more to love about himself. But if not, Ken's gonna be okay because he is Knuff. Ben, you too are Knuff. I hope one day you become strong enough to realize you don't need those daily wires tying you down. And if you take anything from this movie, I really hope that it is you, Ben. You, as much as I do not like you. I hold no ground for you, and I think you are an awful, horrible person. Despite that, Ben, you are Benough, and you don't need to live to anyone else's standard but your own. But fuck you. Dude, so many little microaggressions, just little zingers at women just everywhere.
We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the makers of the film, hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian.
It keeps going.
Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic from Barbie land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know about the flow of commerce? Like, again, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman. And in any case,
shot
Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman, meaning a dude who has a voice deeper than Ryan Gosling, which is an actual scene in the film, which is just great.
Fucking chaser.
It turns out that actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemies.
Bro, you cannot pretend to not be women's enemy after making fun of them for an hour. And the fucking transphobia. For what, dude? She's just a trans actress playing a Barbie. She's not even saying trans lives matter, which trans lives matter. She's just an actress. You're just being a dick for no reason. The whole video is just Ben punching down on marginalized communities for cheap and easy jokes that don't even get laughs from him. Like, dude, I get that your community is just a bunch of 16-year-olds who just discovered stoicism, but can you please mature your humor just a little? Do all of these arguments come from a place of insecurity and pain? I don't know. I'm not a fucking psychologist. But how the hell can Ben defend his positions from a religious conservative perspective and then say...
Guess what would happen if a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously? You know what the men would do? They would throw a party.
Ben's coming out on his polyarch, yo. You fucking love to see it. The Barbie movie clearly affected Ben on a deep emotional level, and I think that's fantastic. Great art is meant to move the humors, and Greta did her fucking job. I loved the Barbie movie. I think it has a great model for more positive masculinity based on open communication, compassion, and empathy, rather than the old models of fucking possession and domination based on traditional ideologies for tradition's sake. But I don't have 3 hours of points to debate on it. I hope it wins awards for costuming and set design, because it's fantastic. I really hope that young people across the gender spectrum find hope and inspiration in this movie and take it with them to revisit when they're in college and drunk as fuck. Because as much as I maintain that this movie was made for me, it was also made for the kids and teens of today, for them to have right now, but also as they grow up and exit their personal Barbie land into the real world, to have as a piece of nostalgic treasure to laugh at, most likely at how little the systems will have actually changed at all. Look, was it the best movie ever? No, absolutely not. Some of the jokes were really off and the writing isn't that smart. But off 200 milligrams of edibles and right after Oppenheimer, Barbie was a fantastic ride to just watch and enjoy and make fun of the obvious nature of a self-aware ad. There's absolutely discussion to be had on the capitalist realism of consuming an anti-corporate ad as content, and Broe Deschanel does a great job of breaking that down. But after a decade of the gray adult depression, a trip back to the maximalist hyper-reality of my childhood imagination was really refreshing. Honestly, I bet you in 10 years, when Ben leaves his doctor wife for Brett Cooper after they have an affair, they'll revisit the Barbie movie and Ben will shed a lonely, solitary tear, but will never admit to how much the Barbie movie truly affected him. No, instead, Ben will act like First Act Ken and leave the room to hide his emotional turmoil because he never accepted his true Kenergy. He never became Benough in his own eyes. Or maybe not. Who the fuck knows? Most likely, Ben and the rest of the intellectual dark web will continue just to make angry react videos to every movie they find woke. And let me tell you, I am fully over y'all.